To the Morning Five. Thank you for joining us today. It's on this Friday morning as your week draws to a close. Jump back with us in the book of Luke. We're going to pick up the second half of the parable of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. So Mark, take it away.
Verse 25, now his older son was in the field. As he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he summoned one of his servants, questioning what these things meant. Your brother is here, he told him, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf because he has brought him back safe and sound. Then he became angry and didn't want to go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. But he replied to his father, look, I've been slaving many years for you, and I've never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me a goat so that I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who had devoured your assets with prostitutes, you slaughtered the fatted calf for him. Son, he said to him, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. David.
There's a lot you could talk about the older brother, just like we said about the prodigal. I mean, we were always struck by the fact that how someone could get mad about the forgiveness of a father. Maybe that's something we could talk about. Or we think about the ideas that how unfair he felt it was, but the fact is grace is unfair sometimes. I mean, and thankfully so.
Yeah, in a good way.
In a good way.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to focus on verse 29. When he spoke to his father, he said, look, for so many years I've been serving you. I have never neglected a command of yours. He was very concerned with God, his service to his father. He was very concerned about keeping the law. But the fact is, he really wasn't concerned about what his father truly desired, his father's heart. Luke would record later in Luke chapter 19, verse 10, the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. That's the Father's desire. And I love how the story ends. It said we had to celebrate. It didn't say we wanted to. We had to, because that is the Father's whole purpose, his desire to bring people back to him. And unless we become like the prodigal, we need to celebrate when people return to the Lord. No matter how far afield they went, when they come back, we need to celebrate.
Yeah. This story has been called by some the story of two prodigals, because in a lot of ways, it really is. The word prodigal means wasteful, whereas the first son was wasting the inheritance he is given. The second son was wasting his relationship with his father, because he was so concerned about a transaction. You know, I do all the right things and I'm supposed to get this back. And what he wasn't seeing that he was getting back is what you just said. He was getting his father's heart. And that didn't mean anything to him. And whereas the first one talks about those who wander away in an obvious way and then eventually come back, this one is dealing with those who wander away in a much more subtle manner, in a manner that looks like they are with the Father, but they're really not. And this one is probably the one that we may not talk about as much because it affects most of us who are serving Christians more than we may like. It's very easy for us to go through all the motions and think, well, I'm going to go to heaven because I go to church, or I give and I sing and I do all the right things, but our heart is far from him. And so it's a really challenging part. But I guess the exciting part about it to me is the Father still showing grace to this son. And in some ways, this son was the one who is the more egregious offender.
Yeah.
But the Father is still showing his compassion and his love for the older brother as well.
Yeah. It's just it's a very challenging story that Jesus tells and touches us on so many levels. The older son, he received an inheritance as well. We were talking about that yesterday. And if he was the older son, he received 2/3. And so why should I begrudge in any way the mercy and grace God would show to other people when he showed that to me and gave me an inheritance as well?
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening. Hope that was helpful to you in your service to the Lord. You got any comments? Leave them in the comments below on Facebook or YouTube. We pray that you'll join us again on Tuesday as we get into chapter 16. God bless. Have a good weekend.